Now, you told the court that part of your studies that you went through, you got a diploma in legal studies that you got from Cameroon in 2022. So, thank you. You also had other certificates that you also obtained from Vodacom University, which relate to fraud, corruption, and other various aspects of government. So now, in your area of operation, how does fraud manifest itself?
Could you perhaps elaborate?
Thank you. You know, when somebody that is working at a bank, and they're talking of fraud that is happening at the bank, do you still remember checks? Yeah, somebody would write the 110 rand on the check, and somebody will come and write and add another one there to the 1,110 rand. That is actual fraud.
Correct.
Do you understand? Now, when they go and catch the check, let's say the master sends him to go and cash 110 rand, and then he adds his other one, then it becomes 1,110 rand. Then at the bank gives him that 1,110 rand, and then he takes the 1,000 rand. Then he takes to the master that 110 rand. That is fraud, not so. That is how fraud manifests itself, amongst others, at the bank or in the banking industry. But there are a number of examples. That was just one of the examples. Thank you. Do you now understand?
Yes.
Now, in your area of operation, cell phone data system, how does fraud manifest itself? For you to have been also taught about fraud.
So we have SIM card fraud, where fraudulent SIM swaps are done. We have identity fraud, where an incorrect person would pose as that particular person and take out a SIM cell phone contract. We have fraud whereby airtime is purchased or given to somebody else fraudulently.
Yes.
So there's a number of ways that we experience fraud.
Thank you. That is just one of the examples. Now, you told the courts that I don't know whether this is an argument between the cell phone providers, particularly speaking about Vodacom here. You're working for Vodacom, not so. And the South African police, that they are granted some access into your system where they can have an access to the Section 205. Did I get you clear on that?
Yes, it's not every member of the South African Police Services.
Yes.
It is a handful of SAPS members
Yes.
that work at the TSU in all 9 provinces. They have access to the front end of our NEMO system.
Yes. Thank you. Now, you further told the court that those who have the liberty or the privilege to get into your system gets allocated with a code. What did you say now? It's PIN number or PIN code.
They have a username and a password.
Now, who gives them, or where do they get this password and the username from?
So they actually sign an application, a NEMO application form.
Yes.
They are vetted. They are given a username and password by my management.
Thank you. Now, just to get a clearer picture, assume Mr. X is attached to a TSU. He's a member of the South African Police. He's been granted access by having been handed with password and a username by your manager. Then you specifically working on a particular case. Does Mr. X have to liaise with you before they get into the system, or they can just get into the system as and when they want?
So let me just make mention that Nemo
Yes.
is auditable. We do an audit trail on Nemo. In terms of access and who does what, when they do, whatever they need to do. So in terms of just accessing the system for no apparent reason, we would then know that at Vodacom. Nemo actually is traceable. We see what work is done on. And in terms of the TSU, you will have to upload section 205. You have to add the relevant information such as the IO's details, the CAS number, the crime. So all of that is monitored and is audited.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, as I understand you, in our example of Mr. X does not necessarily have to get into the system through you, being a person that is working on a particular case. You can just get in as and when, as long as he logs in his details and all the information that you would use later on for the auditing purposes.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, there are many reasons that Mr. X can get into the system for. Are there specific areas, are there specific areas that you would allow Mr. X to get into your system for?
Yes. Well, Mr. X would only have access to the front end.
Yes.
And no other access. Different levels of access are created for different people. So in terms of my access to Nemo, it would be different to Mr. X or the TSU person.
Thank you. Now, let's talk of Mr. X being a member of the TSU, and they have been requested by a certain investigating unit to check and compare cell phone activities of a particular suspect, and they want to get into your system, go and check on their section 205. Would they only be limited to that 205, or they can as well go to other areas within your system?
No, they are limited to what they submit.
Okay.
Mr. X or the TSUs have access to what they submit.
Thank you.
I think it's important for me to mention that if Mr. X submits a subpoena, we at the LEA department either declines that or approves that request.
Thank you. Let us not get into the dynamics of what would be the reason why it gets approved and the reason why it gets declined. Thank you. Now, Mr. X from the TSU. What does TSU stand for?
Technical Support Unit,
Thank you.
which is now called a POCM officers. It's a provincial office of interception and monitoring.
My colleagues did not get that. The what does, which is called now what? My colleagues did not get that. I also did not get that.
It's the provincial office of interception and monitoring.
Thank you. Now, Mr. X gets a permission to get into your system. He gets allocated with the password and a username. Thank you. Just there. Now, you have penned in affidavit. I don't know what exhibit is this now. I think in exhibit J1. In exhibit J1. Actually, in all the affidavits that you have penned, this is just a repetition of what is contained in in triple J1, where you yeah, I think in all the affidavits that you've penned, it's just an extension of what is contained in Exhibit Triple J1, where you introduce yourself there, and do you have that affidavit? Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, I think it's on page, if I come to the pages, it should start on page number 7, because up to page number 6, it's something else. It's a subpoena in terms of section 205, 51 of 1977, but now your affidavit starts in what would be a sequential reference as page number 7. Now, paragraph 1, 2, 3, you introduce yourself and all the things that you do. Number 4, you also state what called data-related information is and how it gets obtained, and it's just a brief explanation of your internal activities there at Vodacom. Thank you. Now, paragraph number 5. That is where you deal about the ethics of it all. The do's and don'ts and everything, not so?
Yes.
Yeah. Let us briefly, I don't want to read that on record. I'm not requesting you to read that on record because it's already evidence that is there. Actually, on paragraph number 4, there is somewhere, or amongst others, the following stated. Once Vodacom receives a request, that is now on line number 1, 2, 3, 4, in the middle of line number 4, no? Yes. Once Vodacom receives a request to access and supply an extract of call data-related information from a law enforcement agency, this extract is permanently electronically archived. That is understandable? Thank you. Now it proceeds and say, a call data-related information is generated in a PDF format, stored and communicated by the servers and cannot be altered, manipulated, tampered with by anyone whilst on the servers. The manner in which the integrity of the call data is maintained is considered reliable as contemplated in section 15.3 of the Act, which I presume is the Act that is just mentioned above. That is now the Electronic Communications and Transaction Act number 25 of 2002. Is that not so?
Yes.
Do you confirm this?
Paragraph 4, yes.
Yes. What I've just read now, out on record. Right. It seems to me from the reading of this paragraph that there's a bit of a disclaimer from Vodacom. And I'm going to tell you why I say that. It says, the call data-related information is generated in a PDF format, stored and communicated by the servers and cannot be altered, manipulated, or tampered with by anyone whilst on the servers. Do you follow me? Thank you. Now that sounds to me that Vodacom says, whilst we are in possession of this information in our servers, nobody can manipulate it, nobody can tamper with it, and nobody can alter it whilst it's in our servers. Am I?
Correct.
Do I understand that to mean that? Thank you. So we are agreeing on this disclaimer part of it.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, back to Mr. X from the TSU, which is now name another, it's got another name. Mr. X comes with all his credentials. He's given access to your servers. He extracts that information. He takes it somewhere where you not know where does it take it to. So now,
Sorry, let me understand.
yes, madam.
Who extracts the information? Otherwise, we're going to. Who extracts the
I'm
information?
getting there, madam.
No, but
She cannot.
We at Vodacom, LEA personnel extracts the information based on what the subpoena requests.
in other words, it's not an outside person who does that. Even if he has, as you say, a PIN and a name, etc. It never tampers with your internet machinery. Nothing.
Absolutely.
Okay, it's fine.
Thank you. Maybe there was a bit of a misunderstanding here. Is it not so that Mr. X from TSU, for them to be able to access your system, they need to have certain credentials?
Yes.
Now, once they have those credentials, they are then able to access your system in order to get that information that they want, not so?
Yes.
Exactly. So do you then understand? Do you then realize that me and you are on the same understanding? It means Mr. X is able to get into your system and retrieve the information that they want. Not that they will come to you and say, we want this information, and then you give it to them. I think that needs to be clarified to the court, because otherwise we are going to be, we'll be departing on different grounds, although parallel.
My lord, if I could just explain how NEMO
Yes.
works so that we could actually cut
Yeah.
short my evidence, so to speak. So as I've mentioned earlier, there's different levels of access. So what the members of the TSU do, they will add the information, as I've said, and upload the subpoena to NEMO, which is on the front end. It then comes to us, the LEA personnel. We will then verify the information that the TSU has submitted against the subpoena, the 205, and to ensure that it does correlate, we will then validate and approve it. It's just a click of a button. If the information that the personnel from the TSU has added incorrectly for some reason, or submitted an incorrect subpoena that does not correlate with that information, it is declined immediately. So once it's approved by a click of a button, it is then run for the data for that requested period. And whatever else is requested on that subpoena is what we're going to get out of at the end of the day. Once the case has completed, it is then validated again by the LEA personnel to ensure that all criteria are met. Once that is done, we then go and close the case. If there's any other documents that is required and the TSU personnel do not have access to request that documents, by all means, LEA personnel goes and adds those documents. Once it has completed, again, by a click of a button, the case is then closed. It's an automated system, so everything is done automatically. Once the case is closed, an SMS is sent to the investigating officer to say that your data is ready. Please go to the TSU to collect it. And then the member at the TSU will then receive that PDF document electronically. And by a click of a button, they just upload or download that information.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, this individual or the personnel from TSU, we've got an accreditation to get into your system. Are they conscientized of that little what I refer to a disclaimer clause that Vodacom has and say, look, this information, whilst it is in our servers, this is the format. Once it gets out, what you do about it, nobody must come back to us and hold us responsible. Do you?
Yes, that is why it is mentioned in our statement
Yes.
that when the data leaves our systems or offices, it is submitted in a PDF format.
Yes.
So we at Vodacom, Leah Department, we are giving you the data in good faith.
Yes.
In a PDF format.
Yes.
Once it leaves our office, we have no idea what happens thereafter.
Okay.
But our job is to provide it in the format that it is required to be shared or submitted to the IOs or to the TSU, and that's what we do.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, in terms of your knowledge, is there another institution or other institutions except for the service providers, cell phone service providers, that are able and capable to provide these 205 applications?
No. We do receive other applications from other institutes, but under different acts. So not in terms of a 205.
So do I have to understand you to mean that except for Vodacom, MTN, Cell C, I'm not so sure if there's another service provider, cell phone service provider, maybe Telcom, I'm not sure. But except those reputable institutions, there's no person who's able and capable to generate something akin to a 205 Vodacom data.
I can only speak for Vodacom, and I can tell you that other than SAPS, the South African Police Services, submitting a 205 subpoena,
Yes.
no one else has access to our systems to submit a 205 subpoena. As I've said, there are institutes, but under their legislation or their acts, they can then submit subpoenas.
Thank you, ma'am. What I mean in this context, a generation to generate, to generate the 205, like the format in which this 205 has been seen here, a code like this is the MSIPT, and all those particulars that are contained in the 205. Is there any other institution except those reputable service providers that are capable of doing that?
If you're talking
Not
about,
a request.
if you're talking about a generation of a 205
Yes.
subpoena, my understanding is that the IO has to generate that subpoena. He has to then get it stamped by the magistrate and a
Yes.
prosecutor. So if you want me to elaborate on that, that's my understanding, that only an investigating officer of a particular case can generate that subpoena.
Thank you, ma'am. Maybe I used the term 205 in a very loose way. That's how we normally understood it from years ago. But what I mean here, the data that is requested in terms of the 205 application, I refer to the data. In your understanding, except for these three reputable institutions, the service providers, is there any other institution that you know of that is capable of generating the data, they call data, which is the subject of the 205 application?
No, if it pertains to Vodacom, no other.
Thank you. Your information is stored in a, is generated is generated in a PDF format. That is what is contained in paragraph 4, the anti-penultimate line of paragraph 4. What is this PDF format?
It is a portable document format.
So it's you say it's a document wherein the information that has been requested it's written on, if I may to use the word written, in a chronological sequence. That is what the interpreter said.
No. So,
Yeah.
so,
Can you please explain again? Don't worry, take
so
your time. Take your
this,
time. Yeah.
this exhibit,
Yes.
triple J1,
Yeah.
my statement,
Yeah.
the data I provided,
Yeah.
this is a PDF format.
Okay.
We cannot go back and overwrite what is written on here. We cannot remove anything. We cannot add any information
Yeah.
on here. Once we give it an electronic signature, as you would then find
Yes.
on one of these pages, it
Yes.
is locked as a document.
Thank you.
Nothing can be altered, nothing can be manipulated, nothing can be added, nothing can be removed.
Thank you, ma'am. Let us pause this aspect for now. I don't want to say let us put in abeyance, because abeyance could be too far, but let us just pause. Thank you. Now, exhibit triple G1. Now, that is a call data. No longer say 205.
Yes,
That's a call data that was generated as a result of an application made in terms of 205 of the Criminal Procedure Act.
yes, this triple G1 includes my statement as well as the call data. That is correct.
Thank you, ma'am. That is also, it's generated and is also made available in a PDF format, not so?
Correct.
Thank you. Now, this call data had to do with the application in relation to cell phone number 072-766-8169, not so?
Correct.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to be a protagonist of relevance. This trial, it's about an incident that occurred on the 26th of October 2014. 26 October 2014. The allegations that the state has brought before the court are that around 8:30 in the evening, there was an intrusion in a particular home at Photographic. It's an open secret. At, I think it's Putlanong Street. Yeah, I think it's number 11511. Yes, that is at, this incident happened at number 13511 Putlanong Street at Photographic. That is what brought us here. Now the state invited us and the accused to come here and be part of this trial on the allegations that are leveled against this accused. Amongst others, the state then went out of its way to demonstrate that the accused, I'm representing accused number 3, that accused number 3 as well was part of those intruders, or was one of those intruders to go into the house. Amongst others, to demonstrate that he was one of those intruders that got into the house, the state then led the evidence of his cell phone call data, which was handed in as exhibit triple G1. Thank you. Now let's quickly go to the 26th of October 2014 in relation to the call data on the phone ending with 8169.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, That information, it's starts, or the activities of the phone that ends with 8169 are on page number 10 of the call data. And they're just down the line. That's where the activities of the 26th start. Are you with me, ma'am?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Now, I'm just asking myself whether it will be necessary for me to request you to repeat this information by just getting to what I want you to comment on. Because I said to you, I'm going to the protagonist of relevance. That will be relevant as well, but I'm just asking myself if that will be necessary. I'm still thinking. Thank you, man. Now, on a number of occasions, man, you have been requested to relate this information, to put this information on record, not so.
Yes.
Yeah. I think the state did that. My state are also my colleagues. My colleague for the states also, they did that. My colleague, Mr. Mgomezulu, also did that. I think it would just be monotonous for me to request you to do that. That's all. So I therefore decide that I won't really be requesting you to do that. Thank you. But now, having gone through this information time and again and again and again and again and again and again, is it so that there's a particular trajectory, movement, that this phone, we're talking of a gadget, that this phone follows from that time, I think from the date of the 26th, which start with an entry at 7:12:58, that is 7 o'clock in the morning, 12 minutes past 7 o'clock and 58 seconds in the morning. And then it follows a particular trajectory up until the end of its activities or recorded activities, which are also on the 26th at 20:32:57. Are you with me, ma'am?
Yes, I am.
Fast for you.
I see that.
And the next entry on that phone or activity on that phone is on the 27th, at 27th October 2014, at 8 minutes past 8, 17 seconds in the morning as well.
Correct.
Thank you.
Ngiyayibona ukuthi yaqala ukusebenza nge-27 ekuseni futhi yasiqala ukusebenza.
Thank you. Now, is it so, ma'am, that from its very first entry on the 26th, which is 12 minutes past 7, 58 seconds on the 26th in the morning, that this gadget indicates that at some stage is in Hout Street. From Hout Street, it's picked up by a tower at Moy Street. No, these are all the streets in Joburg. I don't know Joburg well, but I think I know Moy Street in Joburg. Yes. And then from Moy Street, you go to Wolhuta.
Yes.
Then from Wolhuta, it gets picked up by a tower at Foslore Square.
Correct.
From Foslore Square, it gets picked up by a tower at Musleke. From there, you go to Ponejo. From Ponejo, we're now on page 11. From Ponejo, it gets picked up by a tower of Tabonsako. Then also by a tower at Tabonsako. And then it also gets picked up by a tower at Sali section.
Yes.
And then from there, it gets into Foslores.
Correct.
It spends a lot of time, this gadget spends a lot of time at Foslores up until 16:28 in the afternoon on the 26th of October 2014. Do you see that?
That is correct.
And from Fosloris, the next tower that picks up this gadget is Heidelberg Road. And that happens at 17 minutes, it happens at 4 minutes past 17:39. I think it's 4 minutes past 5 in the afternoon,
Correct.
89 seconds. And so,
Correct.
thank you. Then from Heidelberg, from the tower that picks it up whilst this gadget is on its way to somewhere on the Heidelberg Road, it eventually gets picked up by another tower, which is Benrose. It also gets picked up by another tower at Benrose, also gets picked up by the same tower at Benrose. It also gets picked up by the same tower at Benrose. Then from there, it gets picked up by a tower at City Deep, by the same tower at City Deep, by the same tower at City Deep. Then eventually it gets picked up by a tower at GP Street.
Correct.
And that happens at 20 minutes past 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Is that correct? ma'am?
That's correct.
Now from GP, I think it's also a minister of Pinchove.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a G.
Yeah. I know there's a GP police station there. Yes. And then from there, from GP it gets picked up by a tower in Volhuta. From Volhuta it gets picked up by a tower in Belgravia. From Belgravia, it gets picked up by a tower in Hout Street. From Hout Street, it gets picked up by a tower in Moy Street. Now, this is at 1934. That is 34 minutes past 7 in the afternoon or in the evening. Are you with me?
Yes.
Now, the last Moy Tower to pick up this phone was at 1941.
That's correct.
Now, from the Moy Tower, it gets picked up by the Hout Street Tower, also by the Hout Street Tower at 16 minutes past 8 in the evening. From there, it gets picked up by the Moy Tower as well. From there, it gets picked up by the Hout Street Tower, also by the Hout Street Tower, also by the Hout Street Tower, and the last activity on this gadget is recorded to have been picked up by the Hout Street Tower at 32 minutes past 8, 57 seconds in the evening. That was the last activity that gets picked up by. That's the last activity of this gadget that gets picked up by Hout Street Tower on this day. That
Okay.
sums up basically the movement of this gadget on the day of the 26th, from the morning until the evening.
Correct.
Thank you. Now, ma'am, this evidence, I know I'm putting you in a corner, but I'm trying to give a holistic picture. This information that you prepared on behalf of the state is exactly what happened on that day, on the 26th of October 2014. In other words, what is contained in here, what the state requested you to assist them with, is exactly what happened on that day. That confirms the version of accused number 3. Thank you. Now, if circumstances were to demand that accused number 3 comes and explain to this court his movement on the 26th of October 2014, he would simply say, look at exhibit G1. No, that is G1. Yeah, he would simply say, look at exhibit G1. That was my movement. But in amplifying it, in its amplification of his movement, this is what it's going to say. And I say, if that need would arise, amongst others, I'm not here to profane his full version, his whole story, if he has got a story to tell, that is going to be him. But in summary, this is what his version is going to be if you call upon to come and explain his movements on the 26th. This is what we would say. That indeed, he was staying in Joburg, at the corner of Hans and Moy Streets. Just a second, Margaret. May I approach accused? I think I forgot the name of the street where he was staying. Excuse me, madam.
Nugget. Is it Nugget?
Thank you, madam.
Is it Nugget?
He definitely says nugget, madam.
Yes, it's
so
because
the
I'm here,
what
in
we're
court.
talking about here.
I'm here in court.
Yes.
Like Leicester.
So the court knows the place.
No, I know the evidence.
Or the evidence.
Yes.
No,
And
I
know
thought
that
the court
is-
has got a clue of what you're speaking about.
Ah,
here.
okay.
No, thank you, madam. Yes. He says he was renting a flat at Corner Lane and Nugget Street. At Corner Main and Nugget Street, which is in the city center of Joburg. Thank you. So, there's no, it is no wonder why when we woke up, when he woke up on the 26th of October 2014, when he started to be busy with his phone, we see all those Ho Street, the Moy Noy Street, and the Volhuta Street, because he was staying around that area. But in a sense, this is what it says, that in the morning of the 26th, himself, in the company of accused number 4, with Mr. Mapisa, and other gentlemen, which he says that himself, Mr. Mapisa, a gentleman called Skaya, another gentleman called Zenzele. There was also another gentleman called Mabungu. There was also another gentleman called Ndawonde. And they then hatched a plan. They decided to drive to Spruit. They used a combi that was driven by Zenzele Mkulu. Spruit, it tells me that Spruit it's another name for Katlehong. I'm not. You say Spruit is another name for Katlehong. I don't know where Spruit is. I don't know where Katlehong is. But that is where they decided to drive. They went there to see some of their friends as well. There were some of their friends who stayed there. Then they got to Spruit. Let me tell you, he's not so sure about the time, the exact time. I think it will be a fallacy again to expect him to say, at 31 minutes past 9 o'clock, this is where we were. At 35 minutes past 9 o'clock in the morning, that is where we were. I just want this court to have that in mind. But he says, on this day, this was his movement. They ended up at Spruit, which is the reason why at 27 minutes past 11, there's that tower there, Moseleke and Ponejo. Those towers are in Spruit, are in Katlehong. So they say. Now, they saw some of their friends there. As I'm saying, this is just a summary of he would come and tell the court if circumstances arise. should not be persecuted for saying that, but your counsel never said this, you are saying this. This is just a summary. You will come and add all the information himself. Thank you. So I know the trick. Yes. They stayed there for some time. He can also remember for how long did they stay, because that was not their ultimate destination. Their ultimate destination was Phosphorus, which is the reason why at 26 minutes past 12, they were still at Spruit. We see that tower, Taponsako.
Yes.
He was busy in his phone. There's also that Taponsako tower that caught his phone. They were still in Spruit in Katleho. Also at study section is also at Spruit in Katleho. Then from there, they drove over to Phosphorus, which was their destination. And actually at Phosphorus, they did not go to the entire Phosphorus, but they visited a specific area at Phosphorus, which is called Lesedi. Now, as I'm saying, you can't really say that at Phosphorus we arrived exactly at 15 minutes past 12 or at 15 minutes past 1. But at some point, midday, they arrive at Phosphorus, which is then the reason why at 13:41, we see that his phone is picked up by some towers at Phosphorus up until 16:28, that is 16:28:56, they were still in Phosphorus, specifically at Mnisi. Now what he says is that whilst at Mnisi, they were not seated like stones or senseless things. They would go out and buy beer. They would go out and do this, go out and do this, go out and do this. Which is the reason why you see all those activities there, like for Phosphorus, SGS3, Phosphorus West, SGS2, and all those things. But their central focus was at Mnisi. Thank you. Now, at Phosphorus, they also, there by the city. The city is a section in Phosphorus. They also visited a friend of theirs, second Mr. Ngamuza. But as I'm saying, you will come and admit to what I've already, on the foundation that I've already laid on what he will come and say. That from the city, in the afternoon, they then decided to hit the road back home or to where they were staying. After having had that jamboree, you know, all the festivities there, then they decided to hit the road to where they were staying in Joburg, which is the reason why you see that at 4 minutes past 5 in the afternoon, on the same date, his cell phone is picked up by a tower, Heidelberg,
Correct.
at Heidelberg Road. And then from there, we get into Ben Rose and all those things up to Holt Street. That is his version. Thank you. Now, on their arrival in Joburg, they went to George Koch Hospital, men's place. What is it now? Hostel. Yes. George Koch Hostel. George Koch Hostel is in the vicinity of the area known as Penrose, which is the no surprise that upon their arrival in Joburg, it's depicted on this exhibit that they spent some time around Penrose. Now at Penrose, not really at Penrose, at George Koch Hostel, which is in the vicinity of Penrose, that is where then they met accused number 5. He was from work. That is his version. Thank you. Then they had some few festivities there. Then they decided to leave Joshua to their respective areas. But they traveled in the same motor vehicle in the Kumbi. Accused number 1, no. Accused number 4 was left at around Chippy Street. May I approach accused man? Thank you. Now, accused number 4 was left around street known as Julie Street. Him, that is number 3, and accused number 5 were dropped at the flat that is at corner Main Nugget Street, where they were sharing a room. Because of the fact that they've been busy the whole day, there was, the state of sobriety had been abrogated. Accused number 2, no. Accused number 5 was from work. They then slept up until the following day. Now, in amplification, the fact that they were at George Gore Hostel, I would want us to go to Exhibit S. A second, my lord, I'm trying to get my Exhibit S here.
Photo number 27.
My lord?
Photo number 27.
No, Exhibit S is not photo number 27.
Which photo do you want to shoot?
Yes. On Exhibit S.
Exhibit S.
I do not have a copy of this.
Oh, okay. I'm going to request the state manager to assist us with the photo album.
What number is this?
It's photo 17.
Oh, 17. Okay, go on.
No, wait. On photo number, on Exhibit S, my lord. Now, let us start with photo number 9. I'm not so sure whether technology would allow us to have that photo beamed on the main screen there.
But how does this with this?
Last time, our colleague here was very handy, Mr. Sibande was very handy in beaming that information. I'm not so sure if you would
Sorry,
offer
Mr.
assistance.
Mnisi, do you want this woman, with this witness
Yes, ma'am.
to testify about the photos, make comments about the photos?
No,
So why do you show her all this?
no, my lord. I'm avoiding a situation
Of what?
where, look, these photos, they also correlate to the testimony of the cell phone data that,
Okay,
that
fine,
this
fine,
witness
okay,
testified
fine.
about. Yes. So there's a synergy there. It's one supports the other. So it will be a miscarriage of justice on my side if I don't do that on behalf of accused number 3. But nonetheless, ma'am, let us proceed. I think everybody has got a photo album, Exhibit S. It might not be necessary for us to have it beamed there. Photo number 9 on Exhibit S.
Which page is photo?
That's page 9. I'm sorry. That should be page 9. Yes.
I am on page 9, photo number 9.
Yes. On page number 9, there are 2 gentlemen that are squatting there, although that photo is a little bit blurred. But the gentleman who's in lightish clothes, that's accused number 3. The gentleman who is at the back with the bluish clothes, that's accused number 4. And according to the information that we received from the state, this photo was taken on the 26th of October 2014 at 11:52. And this information that is depicted today is depicting them being at spray at Mazibuko hostel. This is just to amplify what is contained in your cell data as well. Now you will see that from 11:27 up until 12:41, as per his version, they are at Katlehong or at Spring. So basically, the time at which this photo, as per information that's from the state, this photo was taken from between those two time frames. As I've said, they might not specifically say, at this point in time, at 3 minutes past this so much, this is what we were doing. It would be like expecting the impossible from them. Thank you. Now let's go to page 12. Of the same photo album. Now this is another photo on the information that was presented by the state, on the evidence, not only information, on the evidence that was presented by the state that depicts accused number 3. And according to the state's evidence, this photo was taken at 17:31:14, that is 31 minutes past 5 in the evening, in the afternoon. And according to him, accused number 3, this area that is depicted there is George Koch Hostel. Now, very interesting, man. Now, when you look in the broader aspect of this photo, what would your comment be with regard to the hairstyle that accused number, that this person that is depicted on this photo is wearing?
Do you want me to comment on his hairstyle?
No, not comment. What you see here, your observation. I'm not saying comment. You know, a comment might be something that comes out of your viewpoint. But what you see here, what is it that you see here?
I see a picture of a gentleman enlarged, and then another gentleman on the left-hand side, and
Yes.
the one on the right-hand side
Yes.
is facing the gentleman that's enlarged.
Thank you, ma'am. Let us, before we adjourn for lunch, I said, what is it that you are observing about the hairstyle that he's wearing? The gentleman with, that gentleman who's got an enlarged photo there. What does his hairstyle look like?
It's long,
Yes.
perhaps plaited, or I don't know what you call this hairstyle, but it's long.
Yeah, well, you would not be faulted to try and give a definition of what you see here. Don't worry, man. I understand you're not an expert. But again, is it also correct that what is depicted on this photo is that on his left hand ear, he's wearing an earring? No, the evidence doesn't see this. You must either say yes or no.
Yes.
Thank you, my lord. I think this is an opportune time for us to adjourn for the lunchtime. Thank you, my lord.